petals in the downpour. The rain came down in silver sheets, turning Bangalore's commercial street into a river of umbrellas and hurrying feet. Shop owners pulled down their shutters, street food vendors covered their carts with tarpaulin, and the usual evening bustle retreated under awnings and into cafes. All except for one solitary figure. Prisha Mehra stood resolute at her usual corner, a plastic sheet draped over her shoulders and her precious basket of jasmines, marigolds, and roses. At 24, her face carried both youth and weariness in equal measure. Her dark hair, normally tied in a neat plait, now clung to her neck in wet strands. The flowers she had spent the morning collecting from the wholesale market were beginning to droop, their vibrant colors bleeding onto her fingers. "Flowers, fresh flowers," she called, her voice nearly drowned by the drumming of raindrops on tin roofs. "Jasmine garlands for your home, marigold for prayers." The few pedestrians rushed, passed, heads down, thoughts far from flower purchases. Prisha glanced at her wristwatch, a cheap but treasured gift from her late mother. It was nearly 8, and she had sold barely half her inventory. Today's earnings wouldn't cover both Divya's school fees and their rent. Across the street, behind the steamed-up windows of Aroha, one of Bangalore's most acclaimed fusion restaurants, Vikram Joshi watched the flower seller with a frown. He had noticed her every evening for the past month, standing in the same spot with unwavering determination. Tonight, with the monsoon's fury unleashed, her persistence struck him as either foolish or desperately necessary. "Chef, the new dessert." "Menu needs your approval," said Nikhil, his sous chef, placing a folder on the table. "In a minute," Vikram replied, his eyes still on the woman outside. At 32, Vikram had achieved what many considered the culinary dream. A restaurant bearing his signature style, a waiting list extending weeks, and a reputation that brought food critics from across the country. Yet something about the lone figure in the rain disturbed his carefully constructed world. "How long has she been out there?" he asked Nikhil. "The flower girl?" "Since before our dinner service began." "At least 4 hours," Nikhil shrugged. "She's always there." Vikram nodded, signed the menu without reading it, and handed it back. The restaurant hummed with satisfied conversation and the clink of silverware against fine china. A world apart from the rain-soaked street. Making a sudden decision, Vikram untied his apron and grabbed his umbrella from the stand. "I'll be back in 5, he told a surprised Nikhil. Outside, the rain immediately soaked through his expensive shoes. He approached the flower seller, who looked up with a practiced smile. That didn't reach her tired eyes. "Flowers, sir? Fresh jasmine for your home?" she asked, voice hoarse from hours of calling. "How much for all of it?" Vikram asked, gesturing to her entire basket. Prisha blinked, confusion crossing her face. "All of it, sir? But why would you—" "I'm hosting a special event tomorrow," he lied smoothly. "Need flowers for all the tables." She hesitated, mentally calculating. 2,000 rupees, sir." It was overpriced, and they both knew it. But the rain was growing heavier, and something in her stance, the slight tremble of exhaustion in her shoulders, made him reach for his wallet without haggling. 3,000, he said, handing her the notes. "If you'll deliver fresh ones to Aroha restaurant tomorrow morning. Ask for Chef Vikram." Prisha's eyes widened. "Sir, that's too much." "Not for quality," he cut in. 9 o'clock. Don't be late. As I. He turned to leave. Umbrella in one hand and the basket of flowers in the other, she called after him. "I don't want charity, sir." Vikram paused, rain pattering on his umbrella. "It's not charity when there's work involved," he replied. 9 o'clock. Bring your best arrangements." He didn't wait for her response, knowing pride might make her refuse. Back in the warm restaurant, he placed the damp basket in his office and returned to the kitchen, ignoring Nikhil's curious glance. That night, as he drove home to his elegant but empty apartment, Vikram found himself wondering why he had done it. Perhaps it was the echo of his grandmother's voice. No one should stand in the rain when there's shelter to be offered. Or perhaps it was something in the flower seller's eyes, not desperation, but a fierce dignity that reminded him of his own journey. Whatever the reason, he found himself looking forward to 9 o'clock tomorrow, curious if she would actually come. A proposition of dignity. The morning light filtered through Aroha's tall windows, casting golden rectangles across the polished wooden floors. Vikram arrived early, his routine unchanged for 5 years. First to arrive, last to leave. The kitchen staff wouldn't be in for another hour, giving him the peaceful solitude he needed to plan the day's specials. He was surprised to find someone already waiting outside. Prisha, clutching 2 large baskets overflowing with fresh flowers, more vibrant than the wilted collection from last night. She wore a simple salwar kameez in faded blue, her hair neatly braided and adorned with a single jasmine bud. Despite her obvious nervousness, she stood straight, dignity in her posture. "You're early," Vikram observed, unlocking the door. "Punctuality costs nothing, sir," she replied softly. "And you paid generously." Inside, she hesitated at the threshold, taking in the restaurant's elegant interior, walls adorned with hand-painted murals of spice roots, tables of polished mahogany, and the subtle scent of cardamom and cloves lingering from the previous night. "These are for your event," she said, placing the baskets on a table. "I included some lotus buds and rajnigandha as well. They last longer in arrangements." Vikram examined the flowers, impressed by their quality. "There is no event," he admitted. Her face fell. "Then you don't need these?" "I didn't say that." He gestured for her to sit. "Coffee?" "No, thank you. If you don't need flowers, I should go. Others will buy—" "I have a different proposition," Vikram interrupted, studying her carefully. "Aroha needs a signature touch, something uniquely Indian yet contemporary. Your flower arrangements could provide that." Prisha's eyes narrowed. "You want me to supply flowers daily?" "I want you to be our in-house flower artist. Create arrangements for each table, change them with our seasonal menu, work here instead of standing in the rain." The silence stretched between them. Outside, Bangalore was awakening, horns blaring, vendors calling, the rhythm of a city perpetually in motion. "Why?" she finally asked. "You don't know me." "I know enough," Vikram replied. "I know dedication when I see it." Prisha's fingers traced the edge of the table. "I can't accept charity." "This isn't charity, it's business. Your flowers, my restaurant, our mutual benefit." He named a monthly salary that made her eyes widen. "Plus commission on special event decorations." "It's too much for just flowers," she whispered. "Not if they're extraordinary. Are they?" A flicker of pride crossed her face. "Yes." "Then prove it. 1-week trial, starting today." She hesitated, then nodded once. "I need to finish by 3 each day. My sister—" "Your hours are flexible as long as the work is done," Vikram assured her. "I'll have a contract drawn up. After—" She left to fetch more supplies. Nikhil arrived, eyebrows raising at the flower baskets. "The flower girl came?" "Her name is Prisha," Vikram corrected. "And she's our new flower artist." Nikhil's expression remained neutral, but his eyes held questions. "Whatever you say, chef." By evening, Aroha was transformed. Each table featured a unique arrangement, some traditionally Indian with marigolds and rose petals floating in brass urns, others contemporary with single exotic blooms in minimalist vases. The entrance displayed an elaborate welcome design of flower petals on water that had guests stopping to take photographs. Prisha worked silently in a corner, her hands moving with practiced precision, occasionally consulting a small notebook filled with sketches. When she finished and prepared to leave, Vikram approached her. "The guests are impressed," he said. "You'll need a proper workspace. We'll set it up tomorrow." Relief and pride mingled in her smile. "Thank you for this chance, sir." "Vikram," he corrected. "No sir necessary." As she gathered her things, he added, "You mentioned your sister?" Prisha's expression softened. "Divya. She's 12. Our parents died 3 years ago. Accident on the highway to Chennai." She spoke matter-of-factly, without self-pity. "She's brilliant. First in her class. The flowers pay for her schooling." Vikram nodded, understanding now the desperation. That kept her selling in the rain. "Bring her sometime. I'm told my chocolate souffle can make even the most serious student smile." For the first time, Prisha's smile reached her eyes. She would like that. After she left, Vikram remained, gazing at her arrangements. His grandmother had taught him that food was more than sustenance. It was art, memory, emotion on a plate. Somehow, Prisha's flowers spoke the same language. His phone buzzed with a message from his father. "Annual family dinner next week. Your presence expected." He slipped the phone back into his pocket without replying, the familiar weight of family expectations settling on his shoulders. Outside, the rain began again, gentler than the previous night. Vikram imagined Prisha walking home, no longer standing in the downpour but carrying an umbrella he had insisted she take. Something about her story resonated with his own, the responsibility of caring for others, the price of pursuing passion, the weight of expectations. Perhaps that's why he had reached out, recognition of a kindred spirit standing resolute against life's storms. Blossoming arrangements, 6 weeks, transformed Aroha in ways Vikram hadn't anticipated. Prisha's flower arrangements became as much a talking point as his culinary creations. Food critics mentioned the harmonious sensory experience, and reservations increased by 30%. The restaurant buzzed with new energy. Prisha's workspace evolved from a corner table to a small studio adjacent to the kitchen. Her shy smiles became more frequent, her suggestions more confident. The staff embraced her, Nikhil teaching her kitchen terminology, waiters bringing her tea during long shifts, busboys saving specific vases they thought she might like. One evening, as dinner service wound down, Vikram found Prisha creating an elaborate arrangement of night-blooming jasmine and tuberose. "Special occasion?" he asked, setting down 2 cups of masala chai. "A reminder," she replied, accepting the tea gratefully. "Today is my mother's birthday. She loved white flowers." Vikram sat across from her, noticing the shadows under her eyes. "You're working too hard," says the man who's here 18 hours. "Daily," she countered with a gentle smile. It had become their ritual, late evening conversations over tea, sharing fragments of their lives between the dinner rush and closing. Vikram learned about Prisha's childhood in a small village near Mysore. Her mother, who taught her flower arranging, her father, who encouraged her education until finances forced her to abandon college dreams. In turn, he shared stories of learning, to cook in his grandmother's kitchen against his father's wishes, his culinary school rebellions, his estrangement from his family who wanted him to join their textile business. "They still don't understand why I chose kitchens over corporate offices," Vikram confessed. 5 years of success, and my father still calls this my hobby. Prisha arranged a jasmine bud thoughtfully. "At least they're alive to disapprove." The gentle rebuke silenced him. She was right, of course. His self-imposed exile from family was a luxury compared to her loss. "Divya mentioned you helped with her science project," he said, changing subjects. Prisha brightened. "She's building a model about botanical pigments. Very ambitious. She's lucky to have you. We're lucky to have each other." She hesitated. "And to have this opportunity. I've saved enough for her next semester's fees already." "You could return to college yourself," Vikram suggested. "There are part-time programs." "One dream at a time," she interrupted gently. "Divya first, Their conversation was interrupted by Nikhil appearing with a concerned expression. "Chef, there's a girl at the back entrance asking for Prisha. Says it's urgent." Prisha stood immediately, knocking over her teacup. "Divya never comes here." They found the 12-year-old huddled by the service entrance, rainwater dripping from her school uniform. Despite her obvious distress, Vikram was struck by the resemblance to her sister. The same determined eyes, the same quiet dignity. "The landlord changed the locks," Divya explained, her small voice steady despite her trembling hands. "He said, 'We're 3 days late on rent. All our things are inside.'" Prisha's face drained of color. "I paid him last week. I have the receipt." She stopped, remembering. "In the apartment?" "Classic scam," Nikhil muttered. "Happens all the time in that neighborhood." Vikram made a quick decision. "My guest apartment above the restaurant is empty. You'll stay there tonight." Prisha shook her head firmly. "No, we'll find a solution." "It is a solution," Vikram insisted. "Temporary, until this is resolved. I can't accept—" "It's not charity," he cut in. "Consider it an extension of your workplace. Besides, you'll be doing me a favor. Someone should actually use that space." After heated whispers between the sisters, Divya's practical nature prevailed. "Just for tonight, Dee. Please." The apartment above Aroha was modest but elegant. 1 bedroom, a small living area, kitchen and balcony overlooking a courtyard where Vikram grew herbs. It had been intended as his own residence when he first opened the restaurant, but he had eventually purchased a larger place closer to the lake. "I'll handle the landlord tomorrow," Vikram promised, leaving them to settle in. "We don't need handling," Prisha called after him, pride evident in her voice despite her circumstances. "Just a witness when I confront him with my receipt," Vikram smiled to himself as he descended the stairs. Her fierce independence both frustrated and fascinated him. In a world where many sought easy paths, Prisha insisted on making her own way, however difficult. Later that night, unable to sleep, he returned to the restaurant and was surprised to find lights on in the kitchen. Divya sat at the prep counter, meticulously drawing flour diagrams while Prisha prepared a simple meal. "Sorry," Prisha said when she saw him. "We didn't mean to intrude. Divya was hungry and I thought—" "My kitchen is your kitchen," Vikram assured them, inhaling the familiar aroma of cumin and ghee. "Though I'm curious why you're cooking at midnight." "Couldn't sleep," Divya answered, not looking up from her drawings. "Too many thoughts." "A common affliction," Vikram sympathized, watching Prisha expertly flip chapatis on the griddle. "What are you making?" "Just simple khichdi," Prisha replied. "Nothing fancy." "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the stove. After a moment's hesitation, she stepped aside. Vikram examined the pot of rice and lentils, adding a pinch of garam masala from his personal spice rack. "My grandmother believed khichdi could heal anything from broken bones to broken hearts," he said, stirring gently. "The secret is in how long you let the ghee and cumin dance before adding anything else." "Our mother said the same," Divya piped up. "She called it medicine in a bowl." They worked side by side, Vikram suggesting subtle additions, Prisha incorporating them with her own touches. The midnight meal became an unexpected collaboration, chef and flower artist creating something neither would have made alone. As they sat eating, the barriers of employer and employee momentarily dissolved. They were simply 3 people sharing. Comfort food in the quiet hours connected by loss, determination, and the simple act of creation. "This is good," Divya declared, finishing her bowl. "Different from DI's usual, but good. High praise," Prisha translated with a small smile. "She's usually my harshest critic." Vikram watched them. Sister teasing sister, the bond between them palpable. His own family dinners had become formal affairs, conversations measured, expectations weighing down every word. He couldn't remember the last time he'd felt such easy companionship at a meal. You should call your parents, Prisha said suddenly, as if reading his thoughts. Life is too short for silences. Vikram looked away, uncomfortable with her perception. Some silences are earned, and some are just stubborn, she replied softly. The moment hung between them, an understanding that their growing friendship had reached a point where truths could be spoken. Whether he would accept the truth was another matter. When the storm returns, the confrontation with the landlord resolved in Prisha's favor, her meticulously kept receipt forcing him to reopen the apartment and apologize. Yet something had shifted during their brief stay above the restaurant. The sisters visited more frequently, with Divya often doing homework at a corner table during afternoon preparations. Vikram found himself looking forward to their presence, the restaurant feeling strangely empty on their days off. Aroha continued to flourish, with local magazines featuring articles about the innovative chef and his flower artist whose collaborative vision was redefining dining experiences in Bangalore. Prisha's arrangements grew more adventurous, incorporating elements that complemented Vikram's seasonal menus, mango blossoms with his summer chutneys, cinnamon sticks and star anise woven among autumn flowers for his masala-infused creations. On a rare closed Monday, Vikram invited them to the Lalbagh Botanical Gardens for what he called research, but was truly just an excuse for leisure. Watching Divya race ahead on the paths, Prisha smiled more freely than he'd ever seen. She's happier since starting at the new school, she explained. The science program there is exceptional. The private school had been Vikram's suggestion, though he'd presented it as a business decision, offering to pay tuition as an advance against Prisha's future commissions for special events. She'd reluctantly agreed after extensive negotiations that preserved her dignity while allowing Divya greater opportunities. And you? Vikram asked, as they paused by a reflecting pool filled with lotus flowers. Are you happier? The question surprised her. Happiness is a luxury, she replied, but without bitterness. I'm content, grateful. That's not the same thing. No, she agreed, but it's enough. Their conversation was interrupted by Divya returning, excitedly showing them a flyer for university engineering scholarships. Look, Dee, I could apply in 5 years. Prisha beamed with pride, but Vikram noticed her hands tightening around the paper's edges, the pressure of ensuring her sister's future evident in the gesture. The following weeks brought heavy rains again, marking monsoon's return. With it came unexpected challenges. Divya developed a persistent cough that worsened despite over-the-counter medicines. Late one evening, Prisha missed her shift without calling, something that had never happened before. When she finally appeared, the next afternoon her eyes were red-rimmed from sleeplessness. Divya's in the hospital, she explained, voice ragged. Pneumonia. The doctor says she needs to stay for at least 3 days. Why didn't you call? Vikram demanded, concern making his voice sharper than intended. I could have helped. Don't say it, he cut her off. Don't say you don't need help. Everyone needs help sometimes, Prisha. She stood straighter, that familiar pride hardening her expression. I've handled everything. I just need advance payment for this month's salary. Vikram ran a hand through his hair in frustration. Which hospital? That's not necessary information. It is, if I'm going to visit. Their standoff was interrupted by Nikhil clearing his throat. The hospital called for you, Prisha. Something about insurance forms being incomplete. The color drained from her face. I filled everything. Which hospital? Vikram asked again, gentler this time. St. Martha's, she whispered, defeat momentarily replacing pride. But the bills are my responsibility. Let me drive you there, he offered. Just as a friend. The word friend hung between them, inadequate yet the only safe term for what they had become to each other over the months. At the hospital, they found bureaucratic chaos, Divya's admission pending proper insurance documentation, her temporary bed in a crowded ward, rather than the private room Prisha had requested. The estimated costs were staggering, especially with the additional tests the doctor recommended. Vikram watched Prisha's face carefully maintain composure as she spoke with administrators, signed forms, and promised payments. When she stepped away to check on Divya, he quietly approached the billing desk. "I'd like to settle the account for Divya Mehra," he said, presenting his credit card. "Sir, the family has only made a partial payment. I'm covering the remainder and transferring her to a private room." By the time Prisha returned, the transaction was complete. She found Vikram waiting with a doctor, who explained that Divya was being moved to a better room, additional tests already scheduled. "What did you do?" she asked after the doctor left, her voice dangerously quiet. "What you wouldn't let me do." "Earlier," Vikram replied evenly. "Help." "I never asked." "That's the problem." "You never ask." His frustration finally broke through. "You'd rather struggle alone than accept that someone might actually care about you and Divya." His words echoed in the sterile corridor. Nearby, a nurse glanced their way before discreetly continuing her rounds. "You had no right," Prisha said, her voice trembling. "I told you the bills were my responsibility." "Why? Why must you carry everything? Alone?" Vikram stepped closer. "Is your pride worth more than Divya's comfort?" The moment he said it, he knew he'd gone too far. Pain flashed across her face, quickly replaced by cold anger. "Don't you dare question my decisions regarding my sister," she said quietly. "You know nothing about our lives before Aroha, what we've survived, what I've sacrificed. You play at understanding struggle from your position of privilege. Prisha, I accepted the job, not charity disguised as friendship." She straightened her shoulders. "Thank you for your assistance today. I'll repay every rupee." "I don't want repayment," Vikram said, suddenly exhausted. "I just wanted to help someone I care about." "Caring doesn't give you the right to take over," she replied. "My whole life, people have tried to make decisions for us, where we should go, how we should live, what we deserve. But they disappeared when things got difficult. Only Divya and I remained. Only we stayed." The subtext was clear. She expected him to disappear too, eventually. "I'm not going anywhere," Vikram said softly, "whether you believe that or not." Their conversation ended when a nurse called Prisha to Divya's room. Vikram remained in the hallway, understanding for the first time the true depth of Prisha's self-reliance. It wasn't just pride. It was armor forged through abandonment and loss. Later that night, after ensuring Divya was settled comfortably, he returned to an empty restaurant. On Prisha's workbench lay an unfinished arrangement, white lilies and blue irises. His favorite combination, though. He'd never explicitly told her so. He touched a petal gently, wondering how someone so perceptive about others could be so blind to what was happening between them. His phone buzzed with another ignored message from his father. Prisha's words echoed in his mind. "Life is too short for silences." With a deep breath, he finally replied, "Coming to dinner next week. There's someone I'd like you to meet." Whether she would agree to accompany him remained uncertain, but for the first time in years, he was willing to bridge the distance, both with his family and with the woman who had unexpectedly become essential to his life. Seeds of tomorrow. 3 days stretched into a week at the hospital. Divya's condition improved gradually, though the doctors recommended continued rest and monitoring. Throughout, Vikram maintained a careful distance, visiting daily but respecting Prisha's boundaries, bringing books for Divya and food that wasn't hospital fare, yet never staying long enough to provoke Prisha's pride. The restaurant operated smoothly in her absence. The staff, fond of both sisters, took turns creating simple arrangements according to Prisha's sketched instructions sent via text. Customers missed her artistic touch, but understood when told of her family emergency. On the day of Divya's discharge, Vikram arrived to find Prisha collecting her sister's belongings, her expression troubled despite the good news. "Everything okay?" he asked from the doorway, not entering without invitation. "Yes," she replied automatically, then sighed. "No, the doctor recommends an air purifier for our apartment. The landlord refuses to fix the dampness issues, and with monsoon—" She trailed off, shaking her head. "We'll manage." Vikram nodded, respecting her need to solve her own problems. "The guest apartment is still available. Better ventilation, no dampness, for Divya's recovery." He expected immediate refusal, but was surprised when Prisha looked at her sleeping sister, conflict evident in her expression. "Just until she's stronger," she finally conceded. "As a tenant, I'll pay rent." "Of course," he agreed, hiding his relief. "Strictly business." Their arrangement began formally, Prisha insisting on a written agreement, paying rent weekly despite Vikram's suggestion of monthly payments. She resumed work with renewed focus, but the easy camaraderie between them had been replaced by polite professionalism that the entire staff noticed but didn't mention. The change affected Vikram more deeply than he had anticipated. He missed their late-night conversations, her gentle challenges to his thinking, the way her smile transformed her entire face on the rare occasions he managed to surprise her. His family dinner approached, the annual gathering he usually endured, with minimal participation. This year felt different. He had impulsively suggested bringing Prisha, but hadn't actually extended the invitation, uncertain of her response after their disagreement. One evening, as closing time neared, he found her in the courtyard examining his herb garden with Divya, who looked healthier each day. "The basil is struggling," Prisha observed without looking up. "Too much water, not enough sun." "Story of many lives," Vikram replied, causing Divya to laugh. "Dee says, 'You're good with stories but terrible with plants,'" the girl informed him cheerfully. Her previous shyness around him long disappeared. "Betrayed by my own staff," Vikram clutched his heart dramatically, earning another giggle from Divya and the ghost of a smile from Prisha. "I moved them this morning," Prisha admitted. "The basil plants. Hope you don't mind." The simple act, caring for something of his while maintaining her distance, felt significant. "A peace offering, perhaps." "I have a family dinner tomorrow night," Vikram said suddenly. "I'd like you both to come with me." Divya looked excited, but Prisha frowned. "That's not necessary." "It's not about necessity," he countered gently. "My grandmother is visiting from Chennai. She's been asking about the flower artist I mention in every call, and my father—" He hesitated. "I'm trying to bridge some gaps. Having you there would help." "Why?" Prisha asked directly. "Because you remind me why bridges matter," he answered with equal directness. "You've rebuilt so many after losing everything. I've deliberately burned mine over far less." Their eyes met. A moment of perfect understanding despite weeks of careful distance. "We'll come," she said finally. "But I have nothing suitable to wear to meet your family." Divya rolled her eyes with 12-year-old exasperation. "She means she's nervous they'll judge us." "Divya!" Prisha scolded, but Vikram laughed. "They absolutely will judge us," he confirmed. "My father judges everyone, including himself. But my grandmother will adore you, and she's the only one who matters." The dinner was held at his parents' sprawling bungalow in Whitefield. Prisha wore a borrowed silk salwar kameez from Nikhil's wife, while Divya proudly displayed a new dress purchased for the occasion. Vikram's parents were predictably reserved, his mother offering polite smiles, his father assessing Prisha with undisguised curiosity. The true connection came with his grandmother, 82 years old with sharp eyes and sharper wit. She took one look at Prisha's flower arrangement brought as a gift and declared, "Finally, someone with proper taste in this family." Throughout dinner, she drew out Prisha's story, nodding with understanding at the mentions of sacrifice for education, clucking disapprovingly at the landlord's treatment, expressing genuine delight when Divya shyly mentioned her science scholarship. "Your sister has given up much for you," the old woman observed, causing Divya to nod solemnly. "But I'm going to make it worth everything," the girl declared. "I'll become an engineer and build us a house where Dee can have the biggest flower garden in Bangalore." "A worthy ambition," Vikram's father commented, his first voluntary contribution to the conversation. "Engineering is an excellent field." Vikram tensed, waiting for the inevitable comparison to his own career choice, but it never came. Instead, his father asked Prisha about her education plans with surprising insight. "Botany would complement your artistic talents," he suggested. "Many successful businesses have grown from such combinations of science and art." Later, as his grandmother insisted on showing Divya her collection of pressed flowers from around the world, Vikram found himself alone with Prisha on the veranda. "Your family is not what I expected," she admitted. "Your father actually asked about my career goals." "I'm as surprised as you are," Vikram confessed. "That's more interest than he's shown in my choices in a decade." "People change," she said, simply, "given reason and time." The night air carried the scent of night jasmine, her favorite. In the distance, Bangalore's lights glittered like earthbound stars, the city's constant hum a familiar lullaby. "I've been unfair to you," Prisha said suddenly, "assuming your help came from pity or obligation." "And I've been presumptuous," Vikram countered, "making decisions without understanding your need for independence." The admission hung between them, not quite an apology from either, but an acknowledgement of understanding. Progress, of a sort. "I've enrolled in a part-time program at the university," she revealed. "Botanical studies with design emphasis. Your father's suggestion reminded me of dreams I'd set aside." Vikram smiled, genuinely pleased. "Divya's not the only one with ambitions. Then, she inspired me and—" Prisha hesitated, looking toward the house where laughter could be heard. "Others have shown me that some storms pass. Not all, but some." Inside, Divya's voice rose excitedly, explaining something to Vikram's attentive grandmother. The sound symbolized everything that had changed in recent months. His isolated restaurant transformed into a place of connection, his estranged family finding common ground, Prisha's carefully guarded world expanding. "I still intend to repay you for the hospital," she said, ever practical even in moments of reconciliation. "I have a better idea," Vikram replied. "Consider it an investment in Aroha's future. When you complete your studies, we expand. A flower shop adjacent to the restaurant, designed and managed by you." Prisha's eyes widened. "That's not repayment, that's partnership," he finished. "If you're interested," the word carried multiple meanings, and they both knew it. But neither was ready to acknowledge the deeper implications, the growing feelings that had survived pride, disagreement, and misunderstanding. "I'd need to see a business plan," she said finally, practicality masking emotion. "And maintain creative control." "Of course," Vikram agreed seriously, though his eyes sparkled with amusement. "I wouldn't dare interfere with your artistic vision." "The way I don't interfere with your menu?" "Exactly," he laughed, remembering her numerous suggestions that had indeed improved his dishes. Their comfortable silence was interrupted by Divya bounding onto the veranda, eyes bright with excitement. "Vikram's grandmother says I can come study. With her on Sundays, she knows all about plant genetics and has books from when she taught at the university." Behind her, his grandmother appeared, winking at Vikram. "The girl has a scientific mind. It would be a shame not to nurture it." As they drove home later, Divya fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from the evening's stimulation. Prisha gazed out the window, her face softened by streetlights. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For seeing possibilities I couldn't." "Thank you for teaching me to value what I already had," Vikram replied. "Family. Purpose." connections. At a red light, their hands rested inches apart on the center console, not quite touching, but closer than they had been in weeks. Like the basil plants Prisha had repositioned in his garden, they had found better balance, enough sun, enough water, enough space to grow. The light turned green. Ahead lay unwritten chapters, Divya's education, Prisha's studies, the potential business, partnership, and the unnamed feeling developing between them. Behind was a story of flowers sold in the rain, unexpected kindness, pride, and misunderstanding, healing and growth. As the car moved forward into the Bangalore night, carrying its 3 passengers toward home, Vikram realized that sometimes the most beautiful gardens grow from the most unexpected seeds planted during the heaviest storms.